Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Albion Obsessed podcast. Have you all caught your breath? Because I certainly haven't. I've been buzzing all day, and I'm going to be buzzing for a long time, probably until Thursday. But we'll talk about that later. Let's see who we've got on the podcast today. Dagan, how are you, my friend?
I'm still doing well, Joe. I'm still doing well. Yesterday, I found the weekend is now often rising and falling with the Albion, and so flying high at the moment.
Let's hope that our Thursday is also flying high as well. Soni, fresh from the American Express Community Stadium after a wonderful win. You have to come every single time now, just so you know. How are you doing? All good?
Yeah, no, I'm doing great. Hungry, but all good in the hood.
Hey, we all love chips.
Still,
That's fine.
yeah, I mean, yesterday was crazy, but we'll talk more about that later.
We sure will. And we are also joined. Dan, I don't think you've been on for a while, but you're back. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I know I don't think I've been on for a while. That's not like how I normally am, but there we go. But yeah, I'm all good. Fresh from that old adventure we had yesterday. So, and I was a bit, what's the word? A bit hungover this morning, but yeah, what do you expect to do after a nice win like that? So, yeah,
We'll take it down. We'll take it. We love it. Right. Okay. So let's just get straight into it and talk about the starting 11, guys, because there were a few question marks around the rotation of the side. And particularly before the game, the announcement for the squad hadn't even been made yet, Dagan. And it was revealed by, I believe, it was Andy Naylor said that Gilmore was going to start. And people were already writing the game off. And then when the starting lineup came out, Undav was named in the starting 11. And again, written off. What do you make of what did you make of the starting 11, first of all, seeing the amount of rotation and the responses the fans gave?
So my initial thought was maybe the changes were a game too late. I thought maybe more suitable for the Forest game than this game. Wolves had been in pretty good form, winning 3 of their last 4, decisive clean sheets in those games. I think it was Chelsea, Brentford, and the third escapes me, but quality opponents, insofar as you can say Chelsea's a quality opponent these days. Subtle, not so subtle, Barb. But looking at the lineup, I was excited to see Gilmore again, right? I mean, De Zerbi's done a great job with guys who are hungry and waiting for their opportunity, and to a man, guys have generally stepped up and performed well. Undav has had some low moments, but some of those I feel like he's just been really unlucky. And, as we saw, his fortune kind of turned. The decision I was most happy to see was Webster back in the lineup. I thought Colwell is immensely talented, but to me, I think he looks a little too just relaxed and often switched off, or overestimates his ability to recover when he gets in trouble. And I thought that really cost us in the Forest game on a couple of different occasions, where he just put himself in a bad spot and then put someone else in a bad spot subsequently. And so I was happy to see Webster back in the lineup because I think he's just more solid, more experienced. And I think that paid dividends, and we looked a lot more buttoned up on the defensive side. So happy days. I wasn't terrified. I was a little scared, but not terrified.
Love it. Love it. Now, Soni, we spoke before the game. I think it was actually after Wembley about what goalkeeper was going to keep their spot. Jason Steele was in the net for Forest and kept his space for Wolves. Overly surprised, or just is it just business as usual?
I would say business as usual. I'm really happy to see Jason Steele back at it again, especially because he was out for a little bit. Not to say that anything's wrong with Robert Sanchez, don't get me wrong, but I feel like because De Zerbi was like, this is the guy that knows how to play with my style better, I want him in there. And we can clearly see the two different styles at play, like hands down. So I was really excited to see Steele, and he did a kick-ass job yesterday. Just being able to sit there and just watch him just kind of do his goalie thing is like crazy. So hats off to him. He definitely killed it out there.
Yeah, I think it's always really important for a goalkeeper, if they don't have much to do, that when they are called upon, they give a really professional performance. And there was a moment where I think we were 2-0 up and Wolves had the chance to bring it back. and he made a really solid save, and there was a couple of solid saves in there. So yeah, really good point on that one. Dan, I've just had a sort of brainwave a little bit about Deniz Undav. So against United when he came on, I think it's fair to say, and it's fair to give criticism where criticism's due and praise where praise is due. And I thought Undav wasn't overly impressive at Wembley, but there was a pivotal moment for me when he stepped up to take the penalty in the shootout. A lot of groans, a lot of oh no's. He's going to be the one to miss, but he tucked his penalty away with aplomb. And there were then no doubts in my mind that the boy does know where the net is, and the confidence within him after netting that penalty would only grow. Do you think I'm looking into that a little bit too much, as that being a turning point for Deniz Undav, or am I just sort of riding off the fact that he was in the right place at the right time to get 2 goals yesterday? What's your outlook on that?
So obviously, he does seem like a sort of player that's a confidence player, which obviously we've seen quite a few of them in the past, as you can say with more pay when we had him. It probably gave him a lot of confidence maybe to score at Wembley, to say he did put the ball back in the net at Wembley. Then to come into the starting lineup because I think we were all talking about on the group chat, like, what is the formation? I thought it was 4-4-2, or I don't know, wasn't quite sure. But I think he needs obviously a lot more time to sort of do what he needs to do, because I think a lot of times he's still coming on late in games, whereas it's either to get us ahead or keep us going or protect a lead or whatever. He's a guy obviously in a league where not the same quality as ours, but obviously he still scored a hell of a lot of goals. He knows where where the net is to score. It's just obviously playing in the league that he's in, and obviously if he's not playing a lot, which in my own head I'm thinking he's probably hasn't played as much as he probably would like to have done, especially with obviously Ferguson obviously skipping ahead of him now, obviously Welbeck doing what he needs to do, probably finding his opportunity a bit more scarce now, but obviously he's obviously now having the chance. I'd like to see him play in the next game, because obviously I think he deserves it, because obviously the way he did play fairly well. Obviously they were poor anyway, but they played very well. But yeah, I do think that he probably just needs a bit of confidence, and obviously we saw what confidence can do for you in this game today.
Absolutely. I think that you should always stand by the fact that if a striker is scoring goals, then they have to start the next game and work on that momentum. My next question was going to be, Dagan, there's no Evan Ferguson. I don't know if the injury is worse than what we think it is, or whether he's waiting to be unleashed on Manchester United. He wasn't on the bench though, so that for me says that he'll be on the bench against United. When do you think we'll see Evan Ferguson? And do you think Ferguson's thinking he's got injured at the worst possible time, with Danny Welbeck scoring a brace and Undav scoring a brace?
Well, I don't think his position as our preeminent striker is in any jeopardy as a result of those performances. He's been class throughout, and so yeah, I think he's clearly the number one. Whether, given he's coming off an injury, whether that means he's our number one that's coming off the bench against Man U, that's fine. And I think he's comfortable in that role, though. He's looked so good at the start of games. What I took note of, and I thought this was a little bit reminiscent of how we often use Ferguson, both Undav and Welbeck took turns dropping sort of deeper back in, almost into the midfield, when we were in possession. And so, it was almost both playing in this, I guess we had 2 strikers, but really we almost had no strikers. And then, we really used Enciso making runs on the outside when those 2 would drop in. And I thought it was really effective because we, didn't have sort of the immense presence of Caicedo and McAllister occupying that dual pivot role. So instead we brought the 2 strikers up and created, numerical advantages in the midfield that seemed really successful. And Enciso just took advantage on the flank.
Yeah, that's some really good points there, Dagan. Because you always worry with two physical strikers in Undav and Welbeck that we're never. Are we going to find that balance? Curtis, where did you come from?
The stars, the ether, if you will.
Well, we're happy to have you here. How are you, mate?
I'm grand. Yeah, really, really good. Still feeling very, very positive after yesterday. Can't believe that happened, and I wasn't there.
You wasn't.
What is that? But yeah, just more of that, please. More of that.
We love that. We're just talking about the starting 11, Curtis, and talking about Dagan made a really good point about the effect of Danny Welbeck and Deniz Undav having sort of pivoting roles in the sort of striking options, with Welbeck dropping deep or Undav dropping deep, and then Ciso getting the benefits of making runs off of those interchanges. So first of all, was you happy to see Deniz Undav given his chance? I know that you've been a huge sort of admirer of Deniz Undav and wanting him to do well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think I along with everybody else, when we saw the initial lineup, we were like, well, what is this amalgamation of weirdness, But I was so happy to see Undav get his start. I thought if he was going to prove himself, it would have been in that game. I thought, this could be one of his last big opportunities to really show us what he's made of, and I believe he did that. And I agree about the Welbeck Undav combination. I think they work so incredibly well together. I mean, like that first goal, that back pass was outstanding. How clever that was from him to do that. But yeah, I think we're going to start seeing a little bit more rotation now in these last few games of the season, because really, I want to see Gilmour start in the next game, maybe even over Mac. And I love McAllister, but I think he's been sort of off the boil a little bit the past few games. No offense to him, I think he could do with maybe sitting out a game or something. So
yeah. No, completely see where you're coming from with that, mate. And with regards to your comment on the Welbeck flick onto Deniz Undav, it's just striker's instinct, isn't it? And it was like they both had the same mind in that moment. And you see that so many times with striking partnerships through the years. Luis Suarez, Daniel Sturridge. I could think of some more, but I can't off the top of my head. But they got that knowledge of where each other are. And to be honest, maybe that could be a partnership going forward. I know a lot of Welbeck and Undav haters will be going, oh, no, I never want to see him play for my club again. But here's Daniel Welbeck scoring another brace.
Joe, he scored 2. It's not good enough.
I know. Get him out. But guys, look, we've got 6 goals to talk about. So let's rattle through these not as quickly as we can, because we want to talk about the absolute quality that was on show yesterday. Dan, let's start with the first goal, which Curtis has already spoken about a little bit. Deniz Undav gets on the end of Welbeck. Did I say Danny Undav? Deniz Undav gets on the end of Danny Welbeck's flick and puts the ball in the net. There's a lengthy VAR check for some absolutely bizarre reason when he's like this much onside. For the audio listeners, that's the width of my head. And yeah, what's that lengthy VAR check for, Dan? I don't understand.
I don't understand either, because they were initially waiting to see what was happening. Because obviously, when he scored it, I didn't really celebrate, because obviously I thought something else was going to happen. So obviously everyone started random. I was like, "Oh yeah, something happened." I wasn't sure, but then like there was obviously didn't just stand in there. Obviously Dennis and the referee basically staring at each other like that. Like I was like, "Oh, it's obviously something's happened." Then when it come up on the screen, I looked back. I was like, from the screen he looked onside, way onside. And I watched it this morning, and I was like, why does that take so long? That he's well onside. I don't understand why they just can't. They look at it and go, we need to put the lines up. And it's like, why look at that more in depth? You can see with your own eyes that it's onside. So why do you need to bring the lines out? But I don't know. They're wasting time.
Probably. And Soni, you've probably heard us moaning about VAR all season. And now that was your first ever goal that you witnessed in a English football stadium. Probably not the best one in terms of the finish. It was beautiful, but in terms of what happened afterwards, you probably didn't get the quintessential British celebration of seeing a goal, because again, VAR decide when you're allowed to celebrate. But how good was that feeling seeing that ball go in the back of the net?
Very good. I almost missed it too because I was just like paying attention to everybody running around, and because I was so low to the ground, I couldn't really see it perfectly, but I could see like the ball just kind of like go in there, and everyone's like, "Ooh, yay, maybe," and then they're like, "VAR check," and then you could just hear the boos. Just the boo start streaming out, and I'm over here going, "Boo! I hate this. This sucks." Because I honestly thought it went in perfectly fine. I didn't see any issue on my end, but then again, I didn't have really good vantage point to say, "Oh yeah, no, this was definitely wrong." But it was way too long for what it was. I thought it was dumb. That should have been an instant, like 30 seconds. Here you go, you're all done. But yeah.
But I guess the positive is you got to celebrate your first goal twice.
I did.
So that is the pros of VAR, is that you're allowed to celebrate goals twice.
I'm honestly jealous because my first game we lost. So, Sony, you have to come to every game from now on. It's just what has to happen.
Yeah, we've got. Sorry,
I've been told that like we need to crowdsource money. Like I need a job, so if anybody has a job for me, like I'm totally down to do it. But like, yeah, I'm totally down with being a lucky charm and like going to every game for the rest of the season. Just give me money. That's it.
Yeah, we've got a crowdfunder in the description, guys. Go and give all of your earnings to Sony because we need her at the Amex, basically. But Dagan, let's talk about a goal that VAR could not even think about chalking off, because I believe it's a loose pass that we pounced on in the midfield. And Ciso is sent away down the left-hand side. And normally when he does that, you're thinking he's going to have a shot. He's going to find a way through to goal. But he puts it on a plate for Pascal, and he finishes with absolute aplomb. And what a finish as well. Talk us through that goal, Dagan.
Well, so the transition started, if I remember correctly, the ball ended up in the midfield with Gilmore. And there were 3 or 4 times in the game where I thought we didn't lead Enciso well with that sort of first pass. And that one was just hit him dead in stride. And I thought that's what really put the defense in a predicament, because they had to try to adjust so quickly. And then Undav perfectly drifted into the left and pulled the remaining center back with him. And then,
but people won't talk about that, Dagan, because it's Undav, by the way. Intelligent movement. Sorry, carry on.
No, I mean, I'm new to this, right? But I started to see the field and what happens, and it was just so clear that movement, had he stayed where he was, one, he was physically in the way of the pass, and two, the center back could effectively cover both him and Gross coming down the wing. And so when he made that move through, the center back had to go with him and trust that a teammate was going to come back on the weak side, but no one was there, and Pascal Gross was there, and just a beautiful left-footed finish. Though his second best finish of the day.
Exactly. We'll come to that in just a moment, because like at the end of the show, we're going to talk about man of the match, or player of the match, whatever you want to call it. And there's so many to pick from, like unbelievable amounts to pick from. Again, Dan, and Ciso is involved with the third, and finds Gross again. And it's a beautiful breakdown down the left-hand side, and Gross flicks it up, and I'm watching from behind, and you guys must have been right in line with it, sort of from where you were, and the ball was just destined for that far corner. And we'll talk about what that goal means for Pascal Gross in a minute. But Dan, how good to see Pascal Gross back in the goals.
Brilliant, because he's literally, as you put on Twitter, Joe, like absolute legend. He's a club legend. Don't care what everyone says. He is he's definitely up there with one of our best ever signings we've ever made. He's just the one of the best players in his day. He might not be the fastest sometimes, but his brain, it's there. My view of it was literally pretty much straight on. Literally, sort of where he hit it, literally to see it go straight into that net. I was like, "Oh, nice!" That was it. Literally, like couldn't be a better goal. I think out of the lot, that's probably the best one. I would say.
Yeah, I mean that Curtis, they're both amazing finishes, right? So that first one from Enciso's pass, as I said, puts on a plate for him, and it's into that far corner, so far away from Jose Sa, he could only dream of saving it. And the second one is just like if what would happen, Curtis, in the media if Kevin De Bruyne or Erling Haaland scores that goal?
It'd be
It would
front
be
page
everywhere.
news. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just one of those goals. I needed a cold bath after I saw that goal. It was outstanding. Like I've never. That might be my goal of the season so far. Like I mean, I know the Enciso goal at Chelsea was outstanding too, but just how much control he had over all of that, it was outstanding. Outstanding. Can't say anything better than that. I mean, just proves my point that he's just a consummate professional, and he's just the engine of the team. You know what I mean? Everything
Yeah.
goes through him. Oh, he's just wonderful. I love that man. I can't say any more words for how much I love
Yeah.
him. So
Exactly. Let's talk about what that means for him, Sony. He is now 2 goals away from becoming Brighton and Hove Albion's all-time Premier League goal scorer. It's both Neil Maupay and Glenn Murray who hold that record. Now, I understand, obviously, you started supporting us this season, but that's some record to beat. And I know it's only sort of 20, I think it's 26 goals, is it, Dan? So he'll need 27 to match it. To beat it. Is Pascal Gross? Are we fair to call Pascal Gross a Brighton legend?
Absolutely. Why would you not call him a legend? Like, the fact that he's scoring goals and that he's really close to hitting this record should tell you everything that you need to know. I don't think that should be in doubt at all. And maybe some people are like, well, I feel like other people deserve it. No, I mean, if you're scoring goals for the team, that just gives you legend status. Like, that's it. End of discussion.
Yeah, exactly that. You're just absolutely spot on there, Sony. We're going to carry on the Pascal Gross loving because he is so close to becoming our top Premier League goal scorer. Dagan, Pascal Gross was our first ever Premier League signing for £3 million from a German team whose names completely escapes me. Dan, who was it? He'll know.
I think it's pronounced Indussklat or something like that.
Yeah, Ingolstadt, I think. So £3 million. We announced him literally a few weeks after we got promoted to the Premier League, and he scored our first ever Premier League goal. As I say, he's on the brink of a record. He continues to impress under Graham Potter, Chris Hughton, now Roberto De Zerbi. I mean, what more does the guy have to do to? I think he's got the respect of most people now, but there's probably still a few doubters that call him too slow. But that first yard of pace is all in the mind, as Dan said. How much do you love watching Pascal Gross play for Brighton?
So, again, I think I cited John Wooden last time I was on the pod, but one of his 7 suggestions for succeeding, or 8 suggestions for succeeding. Be quick, but don't hurry. And that's, to me, that's Gross, right? He executes his movements quickly. He never seems in a hurry. That was totally in play on that goal. That first touch, just to pop the ball up in the air and then just to wait and strike it. I mean, he looked like a kid at the playground, right? Just, oh yeah, this is a move I can pull off when no one's looking. But to do it, in this moment, to match the all-time goals record is perhaps legendary. Maybe, I don't know. That's
So I think he's 1 goal away from matching it. So hopefully he can do that against United. I mean, another brace. Imagine that, Curtis. Another brace against United. So he scored a brace
listen,
against
we
United.
know he loves scoring at United.
Absolutely.
Like, it's what he does. It's in his DNA, seemingly. So we just have to see. But I'm confident that he can smash that record. I'm so incredibly happy for him because, as you say, there's a lot of naysayers. People within our very own team were naysayers as well, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I'm just happy to see him prove them wrong.
Dagan, if you're trying to guess who that was, Aaron, we're looking at you. But I think that's long gone now. So yeah, big respect, Aaron. We love you. we still got 3 goals to talk about, guys. Now, I don't normally like talking about how poor the other team were because I think that discredits us and how good we are as a footballing side. But Sony, Wolves fell apart, didn't they? They just looked 6s and 7s, and it was a playground. As Dagan said, it was just a playground for Brighton.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Wolves. I was really expecting them to put up more of a fight. They didn't look like they were motivated after the second goal. They basically were like, okay, we're done. It's over. And then, of course, we hit 6. I was hoping for a 7th. I was like, all right, let's hit 7. Like, let's get a 7. Obviously, we didn't get a 7, but they were just demotivated. They were very, like, out of place. It looked like they were out of their scope, basically. And I hate teams that are out of their scope because, like, you know that they can do better. Like, Wolves easily could have, like, put us down just like Forest did, right? I don't think they were ready to handle that. And they could have also been in the same boat where we are, where they also just got too tired. So it could have been a number of things. It could have been like the rotation isn't rotating. It could have been like a mental thing. We don't know. But that was a massacre. That was a massacre on the field, really.
It really was. And Dan, the football we were playing, we were just passing through him with ease. It was like a hot knife through butter, and it was chance after chance after chance. Danny Welbeck had a few that he probably should have done better with. His goal finally came after a fine cross from Purvis to Stupinian, and it's trademark Welbeck at the back post, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, it's good to see that he's getting himself back in it again. Another player that obviously gets a lot of criticism, which I don't know why. The guy played for his country, scored goals for his country, played at the top level, but people will just be like, no, But yeah, it was good to see him doing what he needs to do again, because obviously a lot of people were sort of not really hopeful with him being the way he is, and he obviously scored all the goals, and now he's not relying on Welbeck and Undav to do what they need to do. But yeah, it's excellent to see it, and glad he got 2, obviously, which we'll talk about now.
Definitely. So Curtis, 4-0 up at half time. Now, you know how Brighton fans are. You know how I can be when I'm, Mr. Negative Joe. I try to be positive, as you guys may know, if you listen to the podcast. But even at 4-0, Curtis, and Soni and Dan will vouch for this, I was sat there talking to them at halftime thinking, is it right for me to be nervous at 4-0 up at halftime? I was actually still nervous. Curtis, tell me I'm wrong.
To be honest, because I said I was sort of dipping in and out of the game because my brother was watching a Reading game because they're sort of flirting with relegation in the Championship at the moment, and he's a big fan of theirs. So I was sort of like quietly celebrating because they were like losing at the time. So I was like, yes. But when I saw the 4-0 scoreline, I was like, what? How's this occurred? Yeah. And I too was a bit like, okay. I was like, let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. This could easily go wrong. But I thought if we stick to the ideals that we have set in place, if we listen to Roberto and keep playing as well as we have, I didn't think we would lose from that point. I just thought there's maybe a chance that they could get a goal or 2 goals or whatever. But I thought we would go on and win. But I didn't think we would score like however many minutes into the second half it was. I can't remember, like 5 or 6 minutes in or something stupid like that.
Danny Welbeck's second goal, which Dan pointed out, was 3 minutes after the restart. And now, Dagan, your reaction to me saying I was nervous at 4-0 was a sight to behold. I absolutely loved it. Now, Danny Welbeck very quickly diminished that after scoring the 5th, because for me, I'm thinking, right, this is the Premier League. We've seen some absolute classic games where teams have been 4-0 down, and it's come back to 4-4 or even 5-4, and like classic vintage Premier League. I think there was one between Arsenal and Newcastle where it was like ridiculous. There was even one today. I think Spurs came back from 3-0 down. So, yeah, I don't know how I was feeling at halftime, but as I say, Welbeck completely squashed it within 3 minutes. And what a strike as well. People often question Danny Welbeck's finishing ability, but emphatic, right?
Indeed. That was the one goal that felt like a gift. The ball sort of just popped around, fell in his lap, and he finished. Not an easy finish by any means, but it was, the one that was the least a result of us doing something positive, and sort of just the ball popped around. I think we tried to make a pass into the box. It got knocked away and fell to Welbeck, and he was decisive, which, again, I've made this point. He is so much more decisive and finishes so much better when we already have a lead. It's just been all year that has seemed to be the case. But he was the man on the spot, and he responded. And I will say, I thought the 2 goals were some of the least impressive things that Welbeck did on the field, though. I thought he was just terrific. Like the spaces he found to receive passes, and then sort of holding the ball to the sort of optimal moment before giving it up. Sort of all of his work in the build-up play today, I thought was really, really fantastic. And he was getting stuck in as a defender a little bit too, helping to win the ball back. I thought he had an excellent all-around game today, and deserved a lot of plaudits. And I'll say, the man of the match question, I know we're coming to it later. I went back and watched the game, and he wasn't necessarily one of the guys I was considering most, but he then entered into that conversation as I watched the game a second time.
That's amazing stuff, because a few months ago, he was going through a little bit of a dry spell in terms of goal scoring. And my defense towards him was the fact that he worked so hard for the team. He's always holding the ball up really well. And he worked as that focal point in attack, which we were screaming out for at times last season. And he does that role so well. And people often sort of take the mick out of you when you look away from the goal scoring stat and look at other things they're doing, because they say, oh, well, he's a striker, he should be scoring goals. But if he's working so well in that front line and bringing other people into play, like a point I made after the United game at Wembley was, we weren't finding Danny Welbeck. We weren't getting him into the game. Therefore, the other players weren't being pulled into the game. I feel like that's what Danny Welbeck does so well, is he literally grabs people by the scruff of the neck and pulls them into the game, and does that work so well with an Undav, works so well with Soni yesterday, and Julio Enciso, who has improved so much, by the way, in such a short amount of time. It's actually mind-blowing, and I think we could see such an unbelievable player in Julio Enciso. And Curtis, you wonder what would have come of Julio Enciso under Graham Potter. Would he have given him that chance? Is that me saying, like, am I wrong to say that, or should we just focus on the fact that what Roberto De Zerbi is doing now for this team?
It's interesting to think about, of course. I mean, I feel like he would have got his cup cameos and things like that, but I don't think he would have played as big of a part as he has. I mean, like you say, every time we see him, he seems to be, growing and growing into this very all-rounded player. He's just fantastic, and he's so young, it makes me feel ancient. So the sky's the limit for him. Again, I feel like I say this a lot about our youth, but I love the guy. He seems to have a really great attitude. Seems like he wants to contribute. Because I remember when he first came in and we first started to see sort of flashes of him, he had sort of he seemed a bit selfish sometimes with, he would always just take long pot shots and things like that. And now he's much more of a team player. And that's really, really good to see from him, that he's grown and adjusted to what De Zerbi wants from him. So
I think the pivotal moment for them, Curtis, is actually the Chelsea goal, because he scores that absolute screamer and wins us the game in that fashion. But after the game, Roberto De Zerbi saying, I'm not happy. I'm not happy with him. After he scored the goal, he didn't say he was terrible, but he just really wasn't happy with his performance. And if you've got Roberto De Zerbi drilling that into you, you're going to listen, aren't you? Because, you wouldn't want to get on the wrong side of Roberto De Zerbi. But let's stay on the positivity, Dan, because the Albion pressure did not let up whatsoever. Chance after chance. I said this earlier, but I'll say it again. Chance after chance after chance. Is this the best football you've ever seen a Brighton team play?
It has to be up there, because literally it was just like was it this? What's the old saying they say? It's men against boys out there, and literally just you can see and just we'll just go past them, and they weren't really doing a lot with it, and they just couldn't handle us. And this is basically how De Zerbi wants to play the team play every game. But obviously, a lot of other teams probably would probably put more of a fight, but as they didn't for some odd reason, no one don't really knows. Maybe because if they've given up, because obviously they're not really fighting for anything now, or they could be just like, well, we've got a month to do nothing. We're not going to get relegated. We're not going to get to Europe. We're just going to play until the season finishes and we'll go on a holiday. Maybe that's what they thought they got already, but it would be a shame if they did, because that's an awful mindset. No, if one of our players had that mindset, I'm sure De Zerbi would have smacked him around the head.
Absolutely.
But,
I saw Roberto De Zerbi and Lopetegui deep in conversation before the game, so I wonder if they share sort of manager notes. They look really friendly. Probably the most friendly I've seen Roberto De Zerbi be towards an opposing manager.
You know what I reckon it was? I reckon they were shaking hands. It was like, I'm going to take you down, to just be fair. Okay, that's what it was like. Really friendly face, but it was like, get ready for this.
Very, very likely. Now, as I said, Soni, the pressure was on Wolves, and we dismantled them. We took them apart in God knows how many ways, left and right, through the centre. It just wasn't letting up whatsoever. Now that pressure paid off, because Matoma was hounding, and I pardon the pun, he was hounding the Wolves back line, and made a complete and utter hash of it. And Undav was the coolest man in the stadium to just dink that ball over Jose Sarr. I mean, that's right where you were. If people have seen we haven't released it yet, but there's a little video we done with you at half time, and we showed where you were sat, and you're literally right behind the goal. As that ball pops through, you just thinking, I'm so happy I'm here. Like, I'm so happy I get to see that goal right there.
Yeah, I mean, I almost cried, not gonna lie. Because when I first started watching this team, I was like, I really just want to be there and experience it. And when I woke up at 4 a.m. to buy this ticket to see the Wolves, I'm like, I want the most authentic experience I could ever have. And so for me to just sit there and watch a goal like be made right in front of my face was like life goal achieved. That was cool. That was spectacularly cool. Nice smooth finish. Definitely was a fight, but hey, we made one, we got one. It was in there,
Yeah, definitely. And Dagan, I don't know if I'm speculating here, but as Deniz Undav was going back to the halfway line after celebrating, I think there was a little bit of a stoppage somewhere, whether it was a Wolves player down injured or one of our players down injured. Now the whole of the North Stand was singing, "Hey, Deniz Undav, I want to know how you scored that goal," right? And he was just stood there on the halfway line, watching the North Stand, taking it all in. And there were a few moments where he was going like this. Now, I don't know if it was a hot day and he was sweating, or whether there were genuine tears. We know that Deniz Undav is an emotional guy. I believe there was a little bit of emotion when he scored against Grimsby at the Amex, his first home goal, I believe. So how happy are you for a guy that we saw it on the Buzz's Boot Room quiz, how much of an amazing guy he is and how professional he's been, waiting for his chance? How happy are you that he's come under so many critics and come out yesterday and scored 2 really good goals?
Well, we've talked a lot about belief this year, and what De Zerbi's done for these guys. And I think this is a case where like belief is important, belonging is important. And self-doubt is crippling. And I think Undav, for all the goals he scored and what the successes he's had prior to being with Brighton, he's really struggled. He's struggled with the ball under his feet. He's had some chances and he's not made the most of them. We've seen good things in the other parts of his game that as you say, often get, unspoken about or unnoticed. But yeah, you can't help but think a moment like that is recognizing, maybe belief being restored, but sort of belonging being affirmed, and not just in and among his teammates, but as part of the club and being embraced by the fans in a way that he hasn't probably felt up to this point. And some would say he hasn't earned right up to this point. But I think I'm of the mindset you want all the players to feel at home and welcomed and like this is their place. And I think you catch more flies with honey. I don't know if that expression is one that you guys use over there, but
I like it.
if we treat these guys like we love them, we're probably more apt to get the best out of them. And
Absolutely.
I'm excited to see what we see from him now.
Yeah,
that he's had that moment.
Yeah, I'm glad
really
you said
strong.
that, because I imagine like the players hear the things that the fan base say. He's not blind to what is going up on social media. He can hear what's being said about him, and I'm sure he can hear it at the ground, all this negative stuff. And you're not going to want to play as well if you're being told that you're garbage. And he clearly he had a really great player in him, and we saw that, I think. And not only the goals, I think he had just a really impressive game. I saw a lot of really good facets of the game from him, like the way he held up the ball, his passing, and I just think he shut a lot of people up yesterday. But there's still a lot of people being very, very negative about it. And like, my advice to you is just shut up and enjoy things. Please go out and touch some grass or something, and just celebrate this thing. Okay, This is a big moment for him. This is a big moment for us. So just enjoy it while it lasts.
The noise.
Don't be
sorry, go
mean
on.
to other people. Sorry, don't be mean to your players. Like, the players feed off of the energy. If you don't give them enough energy, they're not going to want to play for you. They're going to want to leave. Like, we got to stop with this whole, oh, they're not doing great, I'm just going to hate them completely because they're trash. No, don't write them off. Like, the season's pretty long. They could get better. They could get worse. You don't know that. Always support your players no matter what, through no matter what. That's what I say.
Absolutely. I mean, we've supported people like Leon Best, John Obika, like absolute trash players that put on our shirt, and when they run onto the football pitch, for me, I don't care. I don't care who they are. If they've got a Brighton shirt on, I'm going to support them until they're not here anymore at the club anymore. And for me, Curtis, the noise of the crowd doesn't lie. When Undav came off, there was the biggest applause ever. We were singing his song for the whole game. We were singing a song after the game in the queue for the Parker ride. We were singing the song, and as I said, the noise of the crowd does not lie. And these tiny little trolls on Twitter that hide behind footballers' names, hide behind footballers' profile pictures, really need to think about it, because we live in a world of social media where the players will read the negative stuff, and there could be 500 amazing comments. That one awful comment will stick in their mind. Dan, we've spoken about this so many times. When does it stop? Where does it stop? And how do you stop it?
What you pretty much need to do is, obviously, with Twitter and Instagram and all that, they should be more responsible about what people are saying on their platforms. Because obviously, you report stuff. I've reported stuff in the past about different other stuff, and they'll come back to me and go, that's not good enough. I'll be like, why is it not good enough? He's basically saying this, that, and the other, homophobic, racist, whatever, and it's not good enough. But why is it not good enough to have him removed? This person removed. And then, like, I will, like, I was banned on Twitter once for like a day because I used monkey emojis in an unracist way. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. I used it in a context of not even racism. One person wasn't targeted in my tweet. It was just a little tweet I made, and all of a sudden I got told, "Oh, the reason you got banned is because you probably used monkey emojis." I was like, "But I'm not using it in a racist way."
The amount of times that I've reported racism, like that I've seen about football players, and nothing ever happens, it's shocking. It's frankly shocking, and I agree. More needs to be done by the platforms here.
Yeah, and I think we should also note that we are in no way relating the hate that Undav or Welbeck are getting to racism, homophobia, or anything like that. It's nowhere near that line, because that's a line that's so far. I think it's a quote on Friends. The line is so far away that the line is a dot to you. So I think that line is so far away. And I think it's very important just for people to remember that these footballers are human beings. They will read things. They have feelings. They will respond in a way where it's, a human response, Dagan, right?
Well, and not only will they read things, their families will read things, probably even more so than they do. And so, I mean, you're taking a toll on more people than just the player. But I think the byproduct can only be negative. Like as an adult person, just think, the byproduct of that. There's no way it's going to have a positive effect. To sort of be slandered in a public way. And hopefully, people shrug it off because they're like, who is this person, as you said, hiding behind, a profile picture of, some soccer player.
We have to remember that these are young, impressionable men. They're still very young. They're still 18, 19, 20, 21. These guys are still trying to find their way through the footballing world. We're pulling them, we're putting them into the field where, we're cheering them on and stuff. But if you keep putting that negativity in their heads, all they're going to keep thinking is negative. And we have to remember that we are not their age, we're probably older than them. And the stuff that we say could actually hurt them.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knew that being kind and supporting your players was a thing that our supporters, by the way, it's in the name, guys, supporters had to do. I don't want to stay on the negativity too long. Go on, Curtis.
Just one more thing. What people need to realize is it bleeds through to the whole team. Because if that affects the ability of one individual, it's going to affect the whole team. And so just think about what you're saying and what you're going to write. And I think we as fans as well, we need to call these things out if we see/hear it, because it's just going to make the whole experience a lot better. But also, we shouldn't have to call it out. They shouldn't say it, period. But you get my point.
Yeah. So basically, be kind, support the club through the best possible period we could be going through at this current moment. Of course, it can get better. It could get worse. Imagine these people if it was getting worse. I don't want to be that guy. Oh, imagine them at the Goldstone Ground, because I'm not that guy. But it could be worse. It could be much worse. Enjoy the club as it is now, and hope that we get better, and hope that we get to that European dream, and support the players through this incredible time. Because I'm going to reel off some stats. And these stats are about to blow your minds. So I believe this is Premier League stats. So 50 goals, 50 Premier League goals in only 25 games under Roberto De Zerbi. The next stat is only Arsenal with 15 have had more goal scorers than the Albion, which is insane. And we have the best XG. Now, I know a lot of people don't buy into the XG stats, but I find it fascinating. The best XG in the Premier League in 2023. Now, I pose a question to you all after reading those fascinating stats about this year. Is Europe back on, and was it ever off, Dagan?
It was never off. I think we were perilously close to seeing it slip away. We needed a decisive win, and we got one. Projecting things out right now, we're, I think, on track for 6. Liverpool looks like they might edge us out. And the fact that I think they're now 2 up in goal differential gives them an edge. Another positive is, Villa and Tottenham have little to no chance at catching us on goal differential. So if we do end up tied on points, that's going to put us in a favorable light there. So no, I think it's very much on. Very much on.
I love that. Love it. Dan, was Europe ever off, or were Brighton fans being what's the word, reactionary? And I'm going to call myself out here. I was guilty of it on when was it, Wednesday? I was in the group chat having a meltdown, wasn't I, guys? Now, I didn't put that across on social media because I'm very conscious about what I put on there, because I don't want to portray myself as someone that's absolutely losing my shit. But in the group chat, I was, and I was sort of I didn't ever say it's done, it's completely finished. I was just thinking the importance of this Wolves game is huge. Dan, what were your feelings? I know we're sort of going back a little bit, but what were your feelings sort of going into the game, thinking how big this is for our European chance?
Well, it is a big chance because, we need to be on a good form and basically be wanting to improve football, because obviously, Wembley hurts. It hurt a lot. Hurt not just us, it hurt all the players. You saw it on their faces when they walked past the stand. Basically, a lot of them didn't really want to be walking around congratulating, obviously not congratulating, but clapping us for being there. Obviously, then for Forest to come along so quickly, it was basically like we need to focus back in. Obviously, I think a lot of them probably were still hurting, and obviously where you can understand that, they want to play 30 extra minutes, they didn't want to play, and then have the heartbreak of penalties, and then to come to go focus on the next game is pretty difficult. And obviously then having that, the way it went, to come into this game sort of for anybody is like it basically felt like a must win for us to sort of keep things on track. As it happened, obviously, we got the win, we got convincingly as well. That'll do wonders for everybody's confidence in that dressing room. I'm sure they were ecstatic getting back in that dressing room, that they've finally put us behind them, full of confidence to go into the next game to keep this on track. And as you said with the question, for me, I would always say it's not over till it's over. It's like when people will say about with relegation, they're going, "Oh, we're getting close to relegation." I was like, but when we got out of it, so I always say it's not over until it's over. If it's over, we can be happy about it. That we got there, we don't get there. I believe it'll go straight to the wire as well, because Villa, obviously, I know they did lose today, didn't they? So it's going to probably go straight down to the wire between probably us two, maybe. Which would be a horrible way to go. Go to a Villa Park after what happened last time. We went to Villa Park. Yeah, not going to talk about that.
Don't go there, Dan.
I'm not going to say anything, but that was, we just have to keep going playing. Obviously, it does help. We have got those games in hands, but the thing is, that against teams that are above us, which isn't great.
But as Tom always says, he's got the confidence that we always play better against the teams that are above us or teams that are better than us. That's in inverted commas for the audio listeners. Curtis, Dan touched on it a little bit in his response to my question. If you could ask for a perfect way to respond to Wembley and to respond to Nottingham Forest, I don't think you could have written a better response at the Wolves game. It was the perfect way, right?
I think De Zerbi summed it up himself when he said that was my best match, basically whilst at Brighton, because I would arguably say that Nottingham was probably the worst De Zerbi game. So to bounce back from Wembley and to do that, 6 of them, and it could have been 7. Gilmore nearly scored one, which would have been outstanding. It would have really just sealed off his perfect performance. But yeah, I mean, I was so relieved. Because I've been a bit of the Europe thing has been something that's sort of scared me a little bit. I remember at the beginning of the season, let me roll it back a bit. I was very like, oh, I'm not sure about Europe. I'm not sure we have the depth. And because it's a genuine concern, but to see us still playing the way we are and hearing these like fantastic links with these exciting players, and like it's just so cool, it still amazes me. And like the question about if it's on or off, you can fully ask me this question at the end of the season, but I'm confident. I'm Mr. Confident on the pod, so I'm going to say it was never off. It's in our hands. We can do it if we stick to the plan.
I love it. You talk about being linked to all these really exciting players as well. One name that really caught my eye was youngster from Liverpool, 37-year-old James Milner. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. I don't know if he's won a few titles in his time.
You mean Julio Milnero, right? Is that the young Ecuadorian?
Julio Minero, from Yorkshire. Dan says in the chat, Klopp spoke about us after their game. What did he say, Dan? Do you know what he said?
So he said that Brighton played one of the best football games this weekend I've ever seen in my life. I have to say, Roberto De Zerbi, wow.
I mean, that just sums it up. Jurgen has summed up Brighton fans' thoughts.
And this
Roberto
is
De
Klopp,
Zerbi, wow.
who pulled a hammy celebrating. Gotta love the man.
I mean, like, you can say what you want about Jurgen Klopp, and when he plays us and when he's a little bit arrogant, then it does annoy me. But away from Brighton and watching him talk, I think he's probably one of the funniest guys in football. He has to be. Sorry, Dagan.
I was just looking, just on the subject of, was it ever off? I was looking ahead at some of the lines for upcoming games, and we are again favored to beat Man United. We are favored, and I look 2 weeks ahead to May 14th. We're playing away Arsenal, and the lines are almost identical. They're a slightly bigger favorite to beat us than we are to beat Man U, but the lines are very, very close in terms of the odds you're getting on a draw as well as the underdog win and the favorite win.
Well, you heard it
we're
here first.
We're getting
guys.
the respect.
Yeah, 100%. We're getting the respect that we've been calling out for so long in the Premier League, especially when Graham Potter finally sort of got us ticking last season, and we were playing some really good football. You have to give credit where credit's due, and we were screaming for these pundits to be like, look at Brighton, look how well we're doing with the recruitment, with the whole way the club was run from. Literally, they say, like, from the tea lady all the way up to Tony Bloom, just absolutely unreal. And finally, as you say, Dagan, we're getting that respect. And it's just absolutely stunning. I absolutely love it.
Joe, the other side of that coin is that just yesterday before the game, pundits saying that De Zerbi doesn't want to take this team to Europe, acknowledges that we're not good enough.
Yeah.
What a dreadful lineup. That could be the only possible explanation for why we would play that lineup.
Was Paul Merson.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm calling him out as if he's listening to this. He definitely listens to the Albion Obsessed
Paul Merson, get out of here, you sassy Sue. Come on, that was silly, wasn't it? What a silly thing to say.
As if he's saying De Zerbi doesn't want to take this team to Europe. How could you manage a team and not want them to succeed? That is just friggin' mind-blowing in itself. But we're going to get on back to the positivity because we won 6-0. It's absolutely insane. Soni, you were there to experience your first game and we won 6-0. Unreal. Just if you can, in a couple of minutes, sum up your Amex experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to put it into words because it's just one of those things that you have to be there for. You saw it, Dan saw it, the other Dan saw it. Like, you guys just saw me like being mind blown for a majority of the time because I'm like, wow, this is actually real, Just the atmosphere was really amazing. Like, everybody was like singing and cheering. Like, there was never a moment where there were no like songs. Like, there were no chants. There was always something going on. And even if it didn't catch on to the entire North Stand, you'll hear like pockets of them just pop off left and right. Whenever Jason Steele was coming back towards the goal, everybody would just cheer him on. They're like, yeah, you're doing a great job. Good job. And he's like acknowledging it like, yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Like, we're giving these guys motivation. Same thing with Mitoma. Like, Mitoma was there at one point and they were just like, oh yeah, good job, bro. Like, way to go. But yeah, it's mind blowing, absolute mind blowing. The pie, by the way, the steak pie, amazing.
Piglet's Pantry, shout out.
yes, thank you. You made this American very happy because I was hungry and I didn't expect it to be that tasty.
There you go. Happy days. The Amex cuisine has
Dagan, you next, my friend.
I'm so envious. I am sorry. It's very envious.
Get yourself to the UK, buddy.
It'll be a first.
There's a line of pints waiting for you as you come into the Tesla. Sony will vouch for you, wasn't there, Sony? There was a line of pints, about 800 pints.
Right, there was like pints everywhere. Like, I could not drink all of them at one point. Like, first day I got here, pint. up to like right now, I also had a pint. Like pint life is amazing.
Wow.
Hands
There you
down.
go. So yeah, Dagan, get yourself to the UK as soon as possible. We will be happy, very, very happy to have
It's
you.
a UK tradition, Sony. When you reach the age of 10, you're given one. When you get to 18, you're given. It's just how it goes. Just
And
what it
then
is.
there's me, who's never had a pint in my life. Am I really British? Who knows? Anyway, let's talk about the man of the match because there's so many to choose from. We've already hit an hour on the podcast, and so we'll try and rattle through this as quickly and as professionally as we can. Dagan, who's your man of the match?
It's nearly impossible not to just say the whole squad. I'm gonna give a little bit of history because I wanted to know when was the last time the Wolves took a beating like this. And I look back in any game, they lost 6-0 in the League Cup on September 22nd, 2012 to Chelsea. But in a top tier game, the last time the Wolves lost 6-0 or worse was September 28th against Liverpool in 1968. So
Thank you very much, Brighton and Hove Albion.
So I mean, like for that reason, there's no man of the match. Maybe Roberto De Zerbi is man of the match for believing in that round of substitutes. But if I have to reduce it to a man, that's the man I would reduce it to.
I will accept that answer. I normally wouldn't accept the manager as the answer, but you made very good points there. Daniel, give us an actual player.
Well, I always see on Twitter people basically were having discussions about this, and a lot of people were saying one particular player. And I said the same. Billy Gilmore, honestly, run the show. You know, came in the steps in the big boots of McAllister and Caicedo. Obviously, then look out of place and basically look like that. If we need to rest them, we rest them. And obviously, then Gilmore will come in and basically do a good enough job, and maybe could argue better at the moment. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a bit of Billy Gilmore for me.
I like what you said there. He stepped into the shoes of Alexis McAllister and Moises Caicedo. So the boys doing two jobs because Pascal was given free reign, as he always is. As you already pointed out, Dagan, Danny and Undav were dropping back as well. But for the most part, it was Billy Gilmore running at midfield by himself. And that he was running at midfield against Ruben Neves and a couple of others who I don't even care to name. So that is no mean feat. Curtis, are you going to follow down with your man of the match, or have you got someone else in mind?
Again, we're so lucky that we're struggling to think about the man of the match because there's so many contenders here. I could give it to Gilmore, absolutely. I could give it to Welbeck, who was impressive. I could give it to Undav, who looked great. I could give it to the cameraman for managing to capture those wonderful goals in such a quick succession, those first three. I want to also give that sensible answer of saying De Zerbi could potentially be the man of the match as well, just considering how what he did to that team. I don't know what he did. I don't know if there's something in the water supply there at the Amex or something, but they played their hearts out. But if I had to just give it to one individual, Gilmore, why not? Just purely because this was one of those situations where he had to really show up and he had to prove himself, and he did that tenfold. And I hope to definitely see more of him before the end of the season because he's earned it, in my opinion. So for me, Gilmore, absolutely. And what a humble guy. I don't know if you saw the interview after the game. What a great individual.
Yeah, I love it when a player sticks by the team and is so professional, waiting for his opportunity and then takes it. And Dan, I know one of your favorite players, Alireza Jahanbash. I always praise him for having that same attitude because he wasn't given as much game time as he would have hoped or as the fans would have hoped. But he always spoke so highly of the football club for giving him the opportunity to play in the Premier League. And when he scored his first goal in the Premier League, he was rightly emotional and visibly emotional as well. And the fans connected to him in that way because he stayed so professional. And you're right, Curtis. I thought it was brilliant of Billy Gilmour to come out and say what he said and to stick by this team and absolutely deserves his chance. Soni, same question to you then. Who was your man of the match yesterday?
I'm going to split it between 3 different people, which I know we're only supposed to pick one, but I'll pick 3. First, Billy Gilmour, hands down. Definitely wanted to see more of him this year. I was afraid that he wasn't going to get his chance. When he was on the lineup, I was very happy about it because I'm like, oh, he's actually going to be like out there. We've seen him come off the bench a couple of times. We've never seen him like a full game, like full impact. And so to see him like full impact in the game, doing the passes, doing the things that he's supposed to do and just balling out, good for him. Like, I'm really happy that he got that chance. I will also give credit to 2 other not lesser, but like people we haven't really seen as much as well. Facundo Buonanotte. So that's one. He came on as a sub, but he was also like, I was actually paying attention to him and Ari. So I was paying attention to them both, just watching how they were moving, watch how they were passing. They definitely have been, I guess, like they've definitely been working with De Zerbi on like doing better. We've seen Ari try at least to make some goals. Like we definitely saw one almost yesterday. We saw one like another time that he came on for like the first time. And then Buonanotte over there is just like killing it on the side. I think that those 2 definitely should be on the field a bit more. So I'd like to see Ari again play one complete game. Like I think we just need to give that opportunity because again, coming off the bench doesn't really give you the full scope. So I want to see Ari, I want to see more Buonanotte, and I definitely want to see more Gilmour. So those 3.
Yeah. I think there's definitely cause to be seeing Ayari and Buonanotte in the future as well. I can't wait for these players to have a full pre-season with us as well. Sorry, Curtis, you're gonna.
No. I was just going to say, because Gilmour said in his interview, like, it's fine to be told how you want things to be played, but unless you're playing it, it's really hard to understand how to do it. So that's why it really impressed me that he had such a good game. And I agree, like the cameo from these other individuals like Buonanotte and Ayari and Julio and Cesar, which I also meant to mention, but he was outstanding, of course. But yeah, unless they're getting the time, they're not going to really fully understand what he wants out there. So yeah, hopefully we get to see more of these younger faces, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And for my man of the match, I'm going to go with somebody that nobody's mentioned yet. We mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode, Pascal Gross. The guy, when he plays for us, which is pretty much all the time, I think his hard work and his intelligence goes unnoticed a lot, and it's always about, is he fast enough to do this? Did he make that right pass? Has he had opportunities to score? But I saw a graphic of what positions he's played for Brighton, and I know this doesn't necessarily sort of go towards whether he gets my man of the match vote for the whole time he's played for Brighton, because that's not what I'm basing it off. But he's pretty much played every position bar left back, centre back, and goalkeeper, which is mind blowing. And it just goes to prove to you how impactful Pascal Gross can be all over the pitch, and it's absolutely wonderful. So for me, Pascal Gross with 2 goals has to get a man of the match because he played, in my opinion, probably the best game we've ever seen Pascal Gross play. And long may that continue going into Thursday, which gives me the most beautiful segue. We're playing Manchester United again, guys, on Thursday. Hopefully we get a little bit of revenge. We're at 1 hour 10, so we'll do this bit really quickly, guys, if we can. Just some really quick sort of score predictions. Dagan, how do you see the game going?
As thunder echoes in the background, I don't know if that came through with you guys. It's 3-1 to the Albion.
I will take that. I will 100% take that. Dan, are you as confident as Dagan?
I'm not sure I'll be very that confident, but I'll go for a 1-1 draw.
Ah, boo. Get him off the podcast. No,
Boo, hiss, bye.
Curtis, Mr. Positivity, how are you
Listen,
feeling?
The Seagulls have a taste for blood now. They feasted on wolf meat. So they are ready to. I'll be quiet now. I'm sorry. I'm tired. But they're ready to take down Man United. Listen, they're going to come into this with a lot more vigor and a lot more fire. They're going to want to prove a point, and De Zerbi's going to want to prove a point. Because there were times during that Manchester United game that we were the better team, definitely, and I feel like he's going to want to really just stamp home that we can be. So I'm going to be Mr. Positive again, sure. I feel like it will be close though, because Man United can't be slept on. They're a very, very good team. So I'm going to say a 8-1 victory. No, 2-1 victory to us. I feel like it'll be comfortable in the end, but 2-1, I believe. I hope.
I hope you're right. Soni, do you share the positivity of both Dagan and Curtis? Because Dan's going with a boring 1-1 draw. Me.
Boo. Again, boo. I'm going to go 2-1. 2 to us. It kind of gives me flashbacks to the first game I've ever watched. So I feel like we can have a repeat of that again.
I will take that 100%. Now it comes to me. Am I feeling positive? Am I feeling like Dan? I'm going to keep you on the fence. I'm feeling positive, guys. I am. The 6-0 win at home, the players are going to be wanting that revenge from Wembley. And we all know Roberto De Zerbi is the mentality king. So going into this game, I am feeling confident. I'm going to look stupid once we get beaten 2-0. But I'm going to go with a Brighton 3-0 win. More emphatic goal scoring, and yeah, we'll be on our way to Europe. Hopefully, I've fully changed my tune from Wednesday, guys, haven't I? So we're
That's
loving
what
life.
Growth.
Exactly. So that rounds off a very, very eventful episode of the Albion Obsessed podcast. We had 6 goals to talk about. We had so many chances to talk about, so many players to talk about, and so many wonderful people to talk to. Again, Soni, it was amazing to meet you yesterday and to share your first Amex experience. As we said, Dagan, you are next. We will get you here. Whether we have to come over and drag you, we will get you here. So yeah, I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the future, and you guys get to see them in the US as well in pre-season. So really, yeah, can't wait for that. So we'll round off the episode. We'll see you very, very soon, and hopefully it's after a win against Manchester United.